7 years goes by quick.
Are you sure this is a good idea?
He owes me and he owes you. Now he has to pay. It's cause and effect. Rule one of any game or con. You can only get smarter by playing a smarter opponent.
After serving a 7-year prison sentence, London-born gambler Jake Green is finally released. 2 years after his release, Jake and his brother Billy visit a major local casino to collect a debt owed to them by the casino's owner and criminal kingpin, Dorothy Marker. Despite warnings from his bodyguard Paul, Marker allows Jake to join his exclusive game. As they head upstairs, Jake hesitates to take the elevator due to his claustrophobia. However, after considering the 24-floor climb, he reluctantly agrees and struggles through a panic attack during the ride. In the first round, Jake deliberately loses a chip toss against another player. This tactic gives Matcha a false sense of security, allowing Jake to win the same bet against Matcha later. With their winnings secured, Jake and Billy quickly leave the casino. On their way out, a man named Zach intercepts them, warning of imminent danger and offering help. He hands Jake a card. This time, Jake opts to take the stairs, but he faints before even taking the first step. As he collapses, the card reveals a message, "Take the elevator." Jake is taken to the hospital. Meanwhile, Macha shares his growing paranoia with Paul, believing Jake is back for revenge, especially after the events that involved Jake's sister-in-law. Macha orders Paul to hire an elite assassin to eliminate Jake. At the hospital, Jake is told no immediate cause has been found for his collapse, and he should rest at home while awaiting his blood test results. Billy returns to his own place, while Jake heads home with bodyguards for protection. Upon arriving, all of Jake's guards are gunned down. Jake narrowly escapes by bending down to pick up a card from the ground that reads, "Pick this up." As he attempts to flee in his car, the driver is shot. Just in time, Zach reappears and rescues Jake. The assassin, known as Swatar, is stunned by his failure, something that rarely happens. He suspects Jake may have been tipped off. When Maka is reprimanded by his superiors, he's told his failure stemmed from poor intuition. Meanwhile, Zach introduces Jake to his associate, Avi, who somehow has possession of Jake's medical records. Jake suffers from a rare blood disorder that will lead to his death within 72 hours. Avi and Zach offer him protection under 2 non-negotiable conditions. He must hand over all of his money and obey their every instruction, including answering all of their questions. They give Jake a 3-hour window to decide. Jake leaves in silence, suspecting it's all a setup. Although the hospital's findings match those presented by Avi and Zach, Jake believes they tampered with the results. He consults his personal physician for a second opinion. After holding the doctor at gunpoint to ensure he's not part of the scheme, Jake receives confirmation of the diagnosis. Resigned to his fate, Jake withdraws his funds from the bank and agrees to their terms. As they ride together, Avi reveals that he and Zach are loan sharks who will be using Jake's money to fund loans. After providing funds to their first client, Avi asks Jake to explain his history with Macha. Years ago, Macha employed 3 foolish henchmen known as the 3 Eddies, who lost their card before an important game. Knowing Jake's gambling prowess, they forced him to take their place by threatening Billy's family. During the game, other players insulted Jake and his mother, triggering a violent outburst that caused a power outage, the disappearance of the money, and ultimately led to Jake being questioned by the police. To silence him, Macha's crew threatened his niece. In the process, they accidentally killed Jake's sister-in-law while she tried to protect her child. Jake kept quiet about Macha's involvement in the game, and as a result, was sentenced to 7 years in prison. After visiting several clients, Zach arranges for Jake to stay in a motel. Meanwhile, Macha and Paul pursue the elusive crime lord Sam Gold, who is considered the ultimate figure among criminal bosses. Since Gold never meets anyone directly, they are introduced to his consultant, Lily Walker, who agrees to facilitate a powder transaction with Macha. She reminds him that Gold detests publicity and has no patience for second chances. Later, while playing chess with Avi, Jake hands over more money to Zach and Avi. He then recounts his prison experience. He had chosen 7 years in solitary confinement over a 14-year general sentence. His cell was located between 2 others, one housing a chess master, the other a con artist. Though the men never spoke, for Jake's first 5 years, they had known everything about each other. Eventually, they communicated through messages hidden inside library books. That's how Jake learned their secret formula for winning any game. The 2 men plotted an escape and promised to include Jake, but when they finally broke out, they vanished without a trace, leaving Jake behind. Upon his release 2 years later, Jake discovered they had stolen all his money and leaving only a note that read, "You can only get smarter by playing a smarter opponent." Using the formula he learned in prison, Jake went on to amass significant wealth at various casinos. Over time, he continued his work by visiting clients and distributing money. Although he was supposed to intimidate those who failed to pay back, he found himself unable to harm innocent, desperate individuals. Meanwhile, Avi and Zach rigged a wall to the back of a truck, planning to break through and steal a safe containing the powder Mocha had promised to Lily. When Mocha discovered the theft, he ordered Paul to resolve the situation at any cost. All turned to their competitor, Triad boss Lord John, who agreed to provide the powder on short notice, but demanded a steep price for the favor. Jake, along with Avi, Zach, and their crew, moved to intercept the deal at the hotel where the exchange was set to happen. Quietly entering the room adjacent to the gangsters, they drilled a hole through the wall and released a sleep-inducing gas. The gas rendered both Matches and John's men unconscious. They proceeded to steal both the money and the drugs, staging the scene to make it look as if Macha and John had double-crossed and robbed each other. Later, Jake receives a call from Billy, who has been conducting his own investigation. Billy reveals that, according to what he's found, Zach and Avi are so dangerous that even Sam Gold wouldn't dare touch them. Billy urges Jake to walk away, but Jake ignores the warning and returns to his work, where he is expected to eliminate a frightened client. Instead, he turns the gun on Avi and attempts to shoot him, only to find the weapon is unloaded. Avi knocks Jake unconscious. Jake wakes up hours later in the motel and receives a call from Avi, who tells him he has officially survived the 3rd day and should now go for a medical checkup. After a visit from his niece and Billy, who gives him a gun for protection, Jake visits his doctor. The physician reveals that the original diagnosis was incorrect. Jake is completely healthy. When Jake tries to confront Avi about the misleading test results, Avi cryptically tells him he will need to be patient. Meanwhile, Paul has been gathering intel, and Jake's name repeatedly surfaces in connection with the setbacks Macha's men have faced. As a result, Macha orders Jake's execution. When Jake returns to the motel, he finds Avi and Zach waiting. They warn him that Macha's thugs are already inside his room. Jake escapes, pursued by the hitmen. During the chase, one of the gang members accidentally shoots himself. The others discover the body and mistakenly believe Jake killed him. Later, Jake confronts Avi and Zach at their office. There, they admit they've always known Jake withheld information about his past dealings with the Eddies. Originally, the 3 Eddies had planned to kill Jake upon his release from prison, blaming him for the actions that got them fired by Macha. In a desperate bid to save himself, Jake had struck a deal with them, offering 3% of all money he borrowed each month. Initially, only one of the Eddies agreed, but after seeing Jake consistently hold up his end, the others also joined in, demanding 4% each. Unbeknownst to them, Jake cleverly paid each Eddie using funds borrowed from the others, ensuring he never lost a penny. Eventually, they ran out of money and approached Macha for help. Macha, intrigued by the mysterious source of the Eddie's newfound wealth, wanted in. After using the formula himself and gaining a fortune, Jake decided to take time off with his brother and niece. During this break, Macha had the Eddies eliminated when they failed to repay their debts. As for Macha, he is now dining at an upscale restaurant. Macha dines when his men arrive with news that Jake has escaped. Sorta identifies Lord John's lover, disguised as a waitress, and shoots her. He then leaves to pursue her driver, though his aim is off and he only wounds her. The woman manages to shoot off one of Maka's fingers before dying. In response, Maka sends Sorta to eliminate Lord John and his crew at their hideout. Meanwhile, Jake continues a rooftop golf game with Avi and Zach. They explain that gold is not a real person but a metaphor, representing ego and the embodiment of greed. He only holds power over those who choose to believe in him. To move forward, Jake must redefine what controls him. Following this realization, Jake withdraws all his money from the bank and donates it. He then stealthily enters Macha's bedroom, battling the voices in his mind, the manifestations of his ego. Jake expresses genuine remorse to Macha for deceiving him, acknowledges him as the dominant crime lord, and informs him of the donation made in Macha's name before leaving. Jake enters an elevator that stalls on the 13th floor. In the confined space, he endures a panic attack while engaging in an internal dialogue that leads him to renounce his ego. Liberated from its grip, Jake emerges calm and centered. When he reaches the ground floor, he finds Maka, unhinged and armed, overcome by the weight of his wounded pride. Jake, now free of fear, calmly walks past him. Unable to comprehend Jake's indifference, Maka is humiliated and breaks down in tears. The next day, Paul shows Macha newspaper headlines praising him as a charitable figure thanks to Jake's donation. While Macha initially enjoys the publicity, his joy vanishes upon realizing Jake also possesses the mysterious powder and had been manipulating them the entire time. Soon after, Paul, Sorter, and Macha's henchmen visit Billy. Realizing a bodyguard has betrayed him, Billy hides his daughter in a cupboard. When discovered, the henchmen interrogate and torture him, refusing to believe he doesn't know Jake's or the powder's whereabouts. As Paul's brutal methods escalate, Sorter becomes disturbed. When they threaten the little girl, Sorter, rejecting his ego, turns on the others, killing the entire crew before ultimately being fatally wounded himself. Concurrently, Lily visits Macha and delivers a funeral wreath from gold, who disapproves of the media attention. She warns Macha his time is up and he will not be given another chance, sending him into a panic. Avi and Zach take Jake and the powder to Macha's casino. There, Avi defeats Jake in a game of chess while revealing a final truth. Avi and Zach were in adjacent cells to Jake's in prison and had always intended to bring him along. However, Jake hadn't been ready to confront the truth. The implication is that Avi and Zach may not even be real. They could be constructs of Jake's own psyche. Before Jake can fully process this revelation, casino security arrives to escort him to Macha, who is now holding Jake's niece hostage. Jake calmly sets the bags of powder on the ground and reassures her, infuriating Macha, who still cannot understand Jake's fearlessness. The humiliation overwhelms Macha's ego, leading him to believe that only death could reassert his power. In a final act of despair, Macha turns the gun on himself and pulls the trigger. In the end, Jake didn't beat his enemies, he beat his ego. That's the real checkmate. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more mind-bending stories.